Warlock is releasing in Marvel Snap. That was a loud clap, wasn't it? Right? But either way, Warlock is releasing, and this is a card that many people are very excited about. It has the promise to honestly be deck breaking if you get everything to happen the right way. So let's take a look at Warlock and decide if he's good or garbage. But I did it a little differently this time. I'll show you what I mean. So here we are. We've got Warlock coming out into Marvel Snap in about an hour from when we're recording this right now. He's a 3/3 activate. For each unspent energy, give a card in your hand. It's actually -1 cost. I don't know why that's a typo there on Untapped, but it's -1 cost. So there are a lot of decks that organically want to have this happen, right? You think about the She-Hulk deck, whether you're running an Infinite version or not, whether you're running High Evolutionary. There are several different places where this may have a home. But I was thinking about it. And the current meta, as my chat's even acknowledged, the current meta is a Mobius M, Mobius, and Stardust meta. This is a frontline card. This is a card you typically want to see in the front line. So you got to be careful with it. And this, honestly, in my opinion, proactively, I'm going to say in the very, beginning portion of the video, I think Warlock will be a good card in the future, no matter what happens today, because of the meta that we're currently in. So proactively, I'm thinking that this is going to be a card worth having in your collection. That doesn't mean, though, it's good, because it still could be garbage for now. Let me show you what I mean. The twist that I did on this week is I wanted to showcase my other creators as well. So the decks that we'll be testing today are not mine, it's theirs. So I pulled 4 creators decks and we're gonna pin them against each other to see which of them performs best for Warlock. We start off with Super Tech God, my man, obviously co-host of the Marvel Snapcast, absolutely fantastic. Because he's playing an Infinite deck, and I mean, that just makes absolutely total sense, especially if you know the Infilock deck that you probably have seen somewhere else before by the time you watch this video. So it's a straight up, put up a little bit of energy in other places and float as necessary. So whether you get Warlock down on 3 or Surtur down on 3, you're benefiting by having that float later on. The card I'm shocked he did not put into here in any capacity was Magic, because he'd rather have the consistency of drawing She-Hulk and Infinite via the Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. He has the Jennifer Kale and the Luna Snow to help accelerate some extra energy to float on turn 6 without Magic, and that's typically the play line I know he uses for that. But with a Moon Girl synergy and a protection piece in Shang-Chi, which at the time of this recording is still a 4/2 with a single target, I do think that it's an interesting build, and I've seen a couple of Moon Girl builds while getting ready for this video. But I don't know if this is going to be the top dog, but I do think that this is a very well-rounded build, because I've seen this deck played with and without Surtur, and I'm curious to see if Warlock is a good alternative card for turn 3 if you don't get the Surtur down, because I don't think this is a card you play on turn 4, based on how this deck wants to run. It's an all or nothing, play it down on turn 3, and then make all the reductions happen. I don't know, Tech, I don't know what you've got here, 100%, but you're not the only person that's thinking in that wheelhouse. Next up is Tucker, who's also running an Infinite deck, but he took the High Evolutionary stance. Now, this seems a little more towards what I would have probably built first. It's leaning all in onto what Cyclops High Evo style builds want you to do, which is have a lot more energy to float more regularly. So you have the Magic in this deck, you have the Jennifer Kale, there is no Luna, but honestly, I don't think you're going to need it, because with the extra turn, you can just play off curve the same way Luna would kind of want to make that happen already. The difference is this deck benefits and snowballs tremendously, especially if you can get Warlock on this deck down by turn 4. Now you're really cooking, because you've got more time. You have a lot more flexibility in there too. Because of that, I think that There's not enough location control to be too scared of magic right now, like as a possible play, but I like Tucker's build on this. It's a clean version of it. I did see some affliction-based styles, but I thought that this one was the most well-rounded, and I'll say the flex card in here is probably Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. Not necessary, but also could be a Psylocke or a Luna Snow, personally. But we'll see how his version works. Next up is Den. Now, Den you might know from Marble Snap Zone. He went on a slightly different, more secure build by playing into Fallen One. Now, Fallen One, having an alternate play line to create Shuri, Fallen One potential decks and get a lot of things here, right? Didn't go Infinite. And I found that interesting. It just guarantees some stability for Giganto. So you know you're going to get a 6/16, and if you need to get that big card down on 6, you can still run a Shuri Giganto line in the left lane only, so it is limiting in that aspect, but it's less limiting than what the Infinite would be, and that's still an incredibly strong way to look at it. It also uses Jim Hammond, who was a little underwhelming in the past. He really was. I was not completely enthralled with that, but being that this is a Fallen One deck, you pull the combo, you pull the combo. I mean, there's potential here for Shuri, Symbiote, Spider-Man, Fallen One to just go absolutely bananas by turn 7. You go Magic into Symbiote Spider-Man, into Shuri, into Fallen One, and then you just have an ungodly amount of energy to work with. Like, we're gonna call that pretty damn good. So I'm curious to see how this all plays out. Very curious to see how this all plays out, because we've got some fun things that can happen without as much concern for if they play Mobius, because that is something that we're going to see a lot. Warlock needs to have another way to get big energy, big cards down if you run into a Mobius. The Fallen One line will definitely help you do that. The last one I have on in here is from Pulse Glazer. It is a Moon Girl Moira X build. And I kept looking at this deck and going, okay, Moira's putting more cards into the hand, right? It's a Victoria hand build, sort of. Then you've got Hitmonkey and then Warlock. And the float, because of Sunspot and Moon Girl and She-Hulk, it feels like it's just another play line. It's just a backup play line to what this deck wants to do. And that's where I found this deck then starting to become a little bit more interesting. Because I wasn't certain as first, but as I sat down with it and I'm looking at the different lines that you can run with it, with how the Moon Girl line wants to go, and then if you need to play Warlock on 3 as just a solid 3-drop, if you don't get the Moon Girl line, you want to skip to play She-Hulk, ramp up the Sunspot, and then reduce a whole bunch of other stuff and make it rain with the Hitmonkey afterwards, which potentially got some extra on there too. That one, after the longer I sat on it, I was like, okay, I see what you're doing here. I'm a lot more interested. The Kid Omega was the only card that I kind of felt was a little out of place, but I think it's exclusively there for the same reason that Carnage is there, which is just lane clearing, to allow you to let it rain on turn 6. It's just here. Let me play this out on turn 5 or turn 4, clear up that space, and not lose the power. That's what I think is happening in the Kid Omega play in here, but I don't think it's necessarily. I mean, you could probably play Venom in a similar aspect or just play a different 1-drop. But this one I'm very curious about and I'm excited for. So Warlock is going to drop within the hour of us recording this. Make your early predictions down in the comments below. Which deck do you think does best? And then go back to that comment at the end of the video and tell me if you were right. Very curious to see how everyone places their bets, but should we do a transition thing? Maybe do something like this? It has been 7.5 hours of testing Warlock. 7.5 hours of She-Hulk, Infinite, make big thing go boom. Let's talk about the decks. We'll start there. Take a look at this, okay? So in these layouts, Here are my feedbacks on them. Number one, Super Tech Gods deck desperately wanted magic. Desperately. The build needed the extra turn to either draw via the Ross or to get the Moon Girl shenanigans to happen the way that you would want them to. Yes, you have Jennifer Kale and Luna Snow. The line very often, it's too thin to make work consistently. Did not end up doing well for me with Warlock. Even on the times that you did get the full float and it felt great, you get the magic line, you know, Sunspot into Bruce, into Luna, into Moon Girl, into, Luna, Warlock, into Moon Girl, into Activate Warlock and Skip, and then you've got Infinite, you know, or double She-Hulk, War Machine, or... It desperately wanted magic. It needed that extra turn and that extra energy to make the maximum potential of this truly shine. Tucker's variation felt better, but the thing that did make it feel clunky was both Hulk and Infinite. And I felt that when you're playing the Warlock lines, you really only needed one of them. So there were often moments where I would have the magic drop on down, and then you're trying to float to make all of the things happen, but you can't continue some of those extra things like Misty, Sunspot, Cyclops, and Bruce, not you, because you need to play She-Hulk plus Hulk. Because you got the end. It's like it was just off again by one card, one energy, one turn. It was better, but still didn't feel like Warlock was the right fit. Then we moved into something that was like, here, let's get you all of the energy. We went into Den's Fall-in-One deck. And Giganto surprised me. I will say there were several times that the winning play was just simply Luna Snow into Shuri, followed by the 32 power Giganto, followed by Taskmaster. The Warlock line for getting that extra energy with Fall-in-One was much tougher. Much, much tougher than I realized it was going to be. Because you need to have the 7th turn. You absolutely needed to have the 7th turn. And without the 7th turn, getting the Warlock plus Fall-in-One thing to happen also felt clunky. It just felt like in every deck that we were trying to maximize out Warlock, it was trying too hard and ended up shooting itself in the foot more often than not, because you're trying to get maximum potential. It's kind of like how several of the Fall-in-One decks initially kind of fell short because you're only going for this line. The Fall-in-One, Symbiote, Spider-Man, Shuri, like get 20 power or whatever. That's all you were hoping for. Now, when you get the Fall-in-One line, you're not winning because of Warlock. You're winning because of this. So it works-ish in the deck, but I don't think it's a meaningful addition in the deck. Then we went on to Pulse Glazer's list, which honestly surprised me the most. I had no idea what I was going to expect going into this list. I think there's some really cheeky things that I was able to do between doubling up my hand via Moira X into Kid Omega, which wasn't always the strongest variation. I very often caught myself wanting like something else, but I'm not sure what that something else is. However, the Victoria hand actually felt like the weakest part of the deck. The extra resources of getting multiple Sunspots or multiple Hit Monkeys, multiple She-Hulks, that all felt great. I don't know if Victoria hand is actually necessary in this deck because it just felt out of place. But it was okay. This one was a better deck. As you can tell by the 4th impression now, none of them truly impressed me. But after playing for 5 hours or so, I had seen some other inspirations and some other ideas, so I decided to add on a 5th bonus deck. I made a deck based on what I saw, and I called it Guest Lessons, learning from what worked, what didn't work. And what I thought was most important with Warlock was that it wasn't about maximizing, getting him the full potential of 5 every turn 5. When I backed off of that and I just got a couple of reductions because I got a Wiccan line, or I got 1 reduction because Luna Snow was there, then it seemed to actually feel like it had a meaningful purpose for that final turn, knowing it's a card that's guaranteed in your hand for the final turn, getting a reduction or getting extra reductions because you're playing Wiccan down. Then it did feel like something was starting to cook a little better there. I also went with Baron Zemo because a lot of people are running End of Turn, and a lot of people are running Sunspot right now, and if they don't draw it, you end up drawing it. So Baron Zemo was a surprisingly good card here, but I do feel that Warlock regularly needs to have Luna Snow. Did not feel necessary to have Jennifer Kale, but Luna Snow felt like a much better fit. She-Hulk's an organic fit, but I want to try more decks without her, because what ended up hurting Warlock, in my opinion, was when Warlock would apply a discount to She-Hulk, and then She-Hulk reduces anyway down to 0, but it could have been onto somebody else. I think there's something there I need to finagle with. It might be Affliction Evo and deal with Abomination more so, but take a look at the stats, okay? Let me put this like this. Take a look at the stats. I did 20 games with each deck, and I did a proper 20 games. I didn't shortcut anything. I just felt that Warlock honestly felt underwhelming. It really did, and that shocks the hell out of me. Now, granted, when you win big, you win massive. But look at all the red on the screen. 50% win rate, 40% win rate, 40% win rate, 45% win rate, 35% win rate. Like, that just doesn't scream on several different builds an absolutely fantastic card. And yet, I feel like it has the potential to be that, and I just don't know what's wrong. So if I have to put a term on it right now, yes, Warlock is garbage. But it feels so wrong to say, because the potential for this card is so high. And nothing I did felt right. It didn't feel like this was the proper synergy. None of the creator decks I tried felt like this is the best opportunity. Now, again, I know this is what we do with Good and Garbage. It's only a 20-game set. It is not the be-all, end-all, say-all that do not get this card. I said it on the Snapcast last week as well. If you plan on getting Jocasta next week, you definitely want this card. But this might be a week where we just have to wait. Wait for Jocasta. Like, get the card, sit on it, then wait for Jocasta, and then make some crazy things. I do think there's still other decks and potential with this card. I do think End of Turn has a absolute home with Warlock simultaneously. I do think that Affliction has a home with Warlock simultaneously. There's a lot that I want to experiment with this card, but after 5 different builds, trying to gear them in different ways, I left underwhelmed. Very underwhelmed. And that was incredibly shocking to me. Over 100 games, my entire average on this card was 42%. I won 42 games. I lost 58 games. I was averaging 0.56 cubes negative per game while playing Warlock. Why does that feel wrong? Let me know in the comments below. So for now, tacky wording, I'm going to say it's garbage. But it is the most indecisive garbage rating I've given a card yet. I feel like I'm going to end up making a second video about this card at some point going, I was wrong. And I really, really hope I get to. Stay tuned. Appreciate you all. As always, see you next time.